perfectionism is the enemy of progress. And in the world of online business, progress is what puts money in your pocket and it allows your community, your students, your clients to start to get the results that they want. I'm Amy Porterfield, ex-corporate girl turned CEO of a multi-seven-figure business. But it wasn't all that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the budget, and the time to focus on growing my small but mighty business. Fast forward past many failed attempts and lessons learned, and you'll see the business I have today. One that changes lives and gives me more freedom than I ever thought possible. One that used to only exist as a daydream. I created the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to help you do the same. If you're an ambitious entrepreneur or one in the making who's looking to create a business that makes an impact and a life you love, you're in the right place, friend. Let's get started. Hey there, friend. Welcome back to another episode of Online Marketing Made Easy. Today, we're diving into a topic that I know resonates with so many of you out there because I've absolutely been there as well. And that is, we are talking about overwhelm. But stay with me here because I've talked about overwhelm for a while now, but I'm going to look at it a little differently. I want to talk about the opportunity cost of overwhelm. So stay with me. Today, we're going to focus on specifically what not taking action on your digital course, if you've ever thought about creating one, maybe you've started to went down the road and then life got in the way, whatever it might be. But if you've thought about creating a course or you've started, but you've stopped, this episode is for you because we're going to talk about what not taking action on that course, not getting it out into the world has absolutely cost you. And I'm talking money. So it's cost you money, but I want to break it down. So don't trust me on that till you hear the details. So stay with me because I can prove how it is costing you money specifically. So often my students are not finishing their courses or launching them out into the world because whether they kind of know it or not, they want it to be really good. Dare I say, perfect. They might not use those words. So if this resonates with you, you might not be saying, Amy, I want my course to be perfect, but you want it to be really, really good. And you're afraid that it's not good enough. You're afraid that it won't get results. You're afraid that people won't buy it. And so you keep working on either the idea of it or thinking about it or actually getting in there and working on the course, but you'll never finish because you're actually going for perfectionism and you don't know it. And guess what perfectionism causes? Overwhelm. And we all know this, but it's a good reminder that perfectionism is the enemy of progress. And in the world of online business, progress is what puts money in your pocket and it allows your community, your students, your clients to start to get the results that they want. You have to ship it. You have to get it out into the world. And so a course that sits on your mind or your heart or in your Dropbox is never going to do that. So because I know that perfectionism causes overwhelm, and I know that many of my listeners deal with overwhelm on a daily basis, which means it's slowing your growth, I wanted to address it today. Now, overwhelm is that feeling. I don't have to tell you, right? And I don't have to tell myself, but we're going to say it anyway. It's that feeling of having too much to do and not knowing where to focus and what needs to get your attention. It feels like everything's getting your attention, which means nothing's really getting your attention. It's that paralysis that sets in when you're faced with a big decision or a new project that you don't know how to move on. So you feel so overwhelmed with it that guess what? You do nothing. And it's costing you more than you realize. So think about it this way. Every day you spend overwhelmed and not taking the action that you need to take to get the results that you deserve, not actually making progress toward your goals, is a day that you're not growing in your business. So when you're overwhelmed and you don't know what to focus on and you feel paralyzed in that, it's a day that you're not growing your email list. You're not connecting with potential customers. You're not moving closer to getting that course done and launching it out into the world to see what it could possibly do for you and your business and your potential students. So I thought we could have some fun with this and do a little opportunity cost math. Have you ever heard of like girl math? It's all over TikTok. Like girl math, an example of that is that this is my perfect girl math. I have something to return at Nordstrom. So I go return something and now I've got this credit back. And so I go buy something else that's essentially free. I know, silly, and we all know it's not real, but it's just kind of a fun way to look at math. Well, I want to look at it a little bit more seriously and talk about opportunity cost math that I think could kind of set in a different way for your business. So let's say you're trying to think of a topic for your digital course. So instead of taking just a few hours to maybe do a little research, think about your skills and your expertise and your experience, and you already know probably 5 different topics you could teach on. So instead of saying like, let's just think about those right now and get honest with myself, like I do know a lot, I could teach a lot, kind of narrowing down that list just as like an initial first step. Instead, you take 20 hours thinking about it. You brainstorm, you research, you talk to other people about what they're doing or what you could possibly do. You throw every idea out the window because you think it's not good enough. And then worse yet, you spend the last 5 hours of that 20 hours looking at what everyone else is doing, convincing yourself you're absolutely not qualified to do this. Welcome to Overwhelm and analysis paralysis, because now you got way too much information. You don't even know which way to turn. But here's on the flip side of that math. What if instead of spending 20 hours doing all that that's not serving you, you spend just 2 hours coming up with an idea, and then you get into action to test it, to validate it, to create a survey to see how your students would respond to it. There's so many validation ideas that I talk about in Digital Course Academy over and over again, which is my program where I teach all of this so that you can get to the finish line a whole lot faster. So let's say 2 hours brainstorming a course idea, and then 3 hours testing it, validating it, starting to put it into action in different ways versus that 20 hours. So that gets you 15 hours back that you could put into focusing on growing your email list and adding, let's say, just 100 new leads to your list, which is an extremely conservative estimate if you have 15 hours to focus on list building. But I just like to be conservative so you'll never say, Amy, those numbers are inflated. I never inflate them. So let's say you added 100 new people to your email list with that newfound time. And I just want to remind you, studies show that for every new lead you acquire, it could be worth $36 when managed properly. So that's $3,600 over time if you manage those leads properly. But let's get even more conservative here. Let's say out of those 100 new leads, you finally, once you get your course created, let's say 2 of them, I'm being so conservative, 2 of them buy your course. Let's say your course is $1,000. You just made $2,000 with that extra 15 hours that you literally would never have made if you allowed yourself to be overwhelmed and just kept brainstorming and thinking and researching and worrying about, do I have the right topic for my course, instead of making the decision and then validating it. And if you need to go back to the drawing board, you could. And here's another zinger for you. Imagine you're planning to launch a course in the future. And let's say your goal is $50,000, which I think is very doable when you do this right. So your goal is $50,000 for this course launch. $50,000 divided by 12 months is $4,166. So every month you delay that launch due to overwhelm is potentially worth over $4,000. Now, if you don't like my math, you could throw it out the window, but hold on a second. Just give me a minute. Why not look at it this way if you need a kick in the butt to get going? Why not allow the opportunity cost math that I just gave you to inspire you to get going? Let's do this. Take imperfect action. Get into action so that all of this becomes more clear. I always say action creates clarity. I first heard that from Marie Forleo probably 10 years ago, and I believe it to my core. It's been like a backbone of my business. Action creates clarity because if you spend 2 hours coming up with a course topic, then you get into action to validate it. You will get more clear if this is the right direction or not. You will never, ever get that clarity if you don't ship it. Get into action, show up, put it out into the world, whether it be the idea through validation or get the course done and start launching it. All of it. That's the action. You will never have the clarity if this is going to work or not just by daydreaming, thinking about it, and brainstorming. So the cost of overwhelm is very real. It's not just about the money you're making, even though I did some opportunity cost math. It's not just about the money. It's about the opportunities you're missing out on. Because I started to create courses and put them out in the world, people started to invite me on their podcast to talk about courses. Because I was willing to put my course out into the world and launch it, even though in the beginning it was very, very rocky, doors started to open up for me. I actually got asked to speak on some stages, not huge stages. This is like 15 years ago. It was small potatoes compared to today, but it was something I had never gotten asked to do before. Speak on stages? Are you kidding me? And people wanted to work with me one-on-one when I started to put a course out there because they're like, hey, could I pay you more that you actually start coaching me? Opportunities started to come when I finally got my course out into the world. My friend, it's not just about the course. It's about so much more about what this will do for your confidence and your business and opportunities in your business. And not to mention the skills you'll develop, the confidence that you'll start to build. There's so much more that I don't talk about all the other incredible things that happen when you become a successful course creator. And that doesn't need to be the only thing in your business. That's the cool thing. There's, of course, other things you're going to do in your business. But I will say when, not if, when you are a successful course creator and you launch it, you will be amazed how much you change. The entrepreneur you are, how you show up in the world, how you see me now. Some of you think I'm super confident and I have it together. Some of you know me personally and think maybe you don't have it all together because none of us do, right? But when you see me online and I tell you how much money I make and the success I've had, you might think that I've been confident for a long time. But if you've listened to this podcast enough, you know that is not true. But me being able to show up in a launch and crush it because I've been doing it long enough and I've become a student of this and I've shown up long enough that I've gotten better and better. Yes, that is where my confidence comes from doing. My confidence does not come from thinking about it, brainstorming, talking about it, asking everybody and being indecisive. That is not where my confidence comes from. It comes from doing. And then when it doesn't work, doing it again till it does, confidence soars. And it comes from doing it and nailing it, confidence soars. It's all in the action. To me, that's the only place confidence can come from. And of course, I've had many, many setbacks along the way. And I'm not perfect at the overwhelm. And I still deal with it, but I look at it so differently. I know the minute it's there, what is this costing me? I ask myself, what is this costing me? It's costing me a hit to my mental health because when you feel overwhelmed, I deal with anxiety. That's where it comes from. And my bottom line and so much more. So there's a whole long list. I already went through a bunch of them, but I asked myself when I really am sitting in the overwhelm, what is this costing me? As Eckhart Tolle so eloquently puts it, the primary cause of unhappiness is never the situation, but the thoughts about it. So when I'm in the overwhelm and I start to think about the fact that I'll never figure this out, everybody's doing bigger things than me. This is keeping me stuck. It's a setback. All those thoughts are keeping me from the happiness that I know I deserve. And it can be the same for you. Overwhelm is often a product of our own minds, and recognizing this is the first step to overcoming it. So, what can we do to combat the overwhelm and start actually taking action? Well, I want to give you a few easy strategies, like ease into it. I'm not going to give you these big things that are going to take forever for you to implement. This is some stuff you could do like today. If you know that you are not taking action in the way that you want to, if you know that you are overwhelmed, burned out, and stuck, then let these small actions become your daily habits. Number one, break it down. Large tasks can be overwhelming. So if you say, I want to create and launch a course, oh my gosh, of course you feel overwhelmed, especially if you don't know how to get started. But what if you said, I'm going to spend 2 hours coming up with a course idea? First step. That is doable. Plus, I've got a lot of podcasts that will help you do it. Number two, set a deadline. I am queen of cutting bait, meaning I give myself a realistic deadline and then I say done. Like today, I was actually working on a new vision for the future of my business. We do this every so often just to kind of keep looking ahead. Vision is hard for me. I'm a more day-to-day, get it done kind of girl. So I have to kind of push myself. But one, I knew I didn't want to do it because it's overwhelming. That feels coming up with a reworking a vision for a business that's been around for 16 years feels very overwhelming to me. And it's not something I feel totally comfortable doing. So I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 45 minutes to work on this today. I can come back to it, but today we're doing 45 minutes. And then I have to actually give it to my CEO and say, this is what I've come up with so far. Then we can kind of go back and forth. She can give me some insights and I can go back to the drawing board, but not until I ship it. And ship it, that's the term, if you don't know, Seth Godin talks about. But to me, it was ship it. I have to show it to my CEO. That's where I cut bait. Like no more until you get feedback on this, then you can make it better. So for me, that's what it looks like to set a deadline, and it makes a huge difference. So timers, deadlines, dates and times, all that works into me getting out of overwhelm. Number three, focus on one thing at a time. So multitasking is a myth. It does not work. And so you've just got to focus right now. I'm just going to do this, and then I can move on to the next thing. Number four, embrace imperfect action. I've talked about it a lot on the podcast. Do B+ work. We're not looking for A kind of work, B+. I always say, does the customer care? They do not care if this looks a little bit more beautifully designed. It looks great as it is. We're going to ship it. Working on content to the point that every single thing is perfect. I'm going to know the difference. My students will not. I know when I get it to a place that, yes, this can get them action, ship it. And number five, my favorite, but the one I probably do not do enough, is to celebrate the small wins. If we don't recognize our progress, no one will. And also, like it starts with us, but more importantly than that, then we will never feel like we're getting ahead. Never. And so celebrating the small wins, and let me give you an example of what it looks like for me. I don't even mean celebrating like going out to eat or buying yourself something or whatever. A celebration to me, this might seem silly, but just I'm going to tell you anyway, is when I go downstairs after I'm working and I walk down my stairs and I always say, love, because that's what I call Hobie. And so he'll say, I don't know what he'll say. Yeah, Snooks or something like that. He always calls me Snooks. I don't know why. And it's just a thing. I always down the stairs, I always yell for him because I know around 5 or 5:30, he kind of comes into the house. He's done with the stuff he's doing. He knows I'm going to be done soon. And then I often say to him, let me tell you something that I did today. Let me tell you something that like I'm excited about. Let me tell you a win I had. And it might be, I recorded 3 podcasts today when I thought I only had time for 2. Or it could be, I had that really hard conversation with so-and-so that I was dreading having, but I did it and it went really well. I always share something with him. And it's probably my way to recognize that something good happened today, even on the hard days. But also, it's just kind of fun to share with someone that totally is going to celebrate with you. So even just sharing a win with a friend feels like you're celebrating it. So if you just needed a baby step, there you go. So I go down the stairs and he's the first person that hears some little thing that went well that day. And yeah, I always like to say, I'm not perfect at this. There's some days instead of saying, hey, love, I'll be like, Hobie, I got to tell you something. I'm really frustrated. Like there's days like that as well. He knows when I use his name, it's probably going to be more serious, but I try. I don't try. I do. On most days, I find the good. Not easy, but important. Okay. So let's get back to what I was talking about. Remember how I mentioned imperfect action before? Well, Tony Robbins has this quote that I've heard him say a million times, which is the path to success is to take massive determined action. And if I could like tweak that quote, I would say the path to success is to take action. I'd even take out massive determined. The path to success is to take consistent action, even if that action is imperfect. I guess I'd fully revamp the quote, even if that action is imperfect, because it's through imperfect action that we learn, grow, and ultimately get the results that we're looking for. So here's what I want you to hear that I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I think it's important. Thinking about it, brainstorming, talking about it, planning, dreaming about it, it doesn't get the results that you want. There's a place for that, but it's a shorter period of time. It's less than you probably think it is. And the magic happens in the action. In fact, I found that one of the biggest secrets to my success has been my ability to make decisions quickly and take action. Sure, sometimes I might make the wrong decision, definitely happens, but I'd rather learn from that than never do anything. I have a good friend that I feel like she never takes action. And I love her so much. And she'll talk about it and think about it and ask everybody about it. But at the end of the day, I do not see her actually doing the thing. She doesn't want to get it wrong. And that breaks my heart because I know that comes with some of that not wanting to get it wrong comes from, well, trauma of how you were raised and what happened when you misbehaved or you got something wrong. I know that that's true for some people or some situations that happen. Like sometimes I work with students that they went bankrupt. And so creating a business and making money is very scary, thinking they might take a wrong turn and that could happen to them again. So they're very slow to take action because look what happened to me in the past. I think what our past, when we let it determine our future and the actions we take in the future, can be really detrimental to our success. This is a bigger topic and there's a lot of layers to it. So I'm not going to flippantly just discuss it and move on. I'm not going to get deep into it and then just move on. I'm not going to get deep into it at all. I'm just saying that we have to recognize sometimes things that happened in our past is why we tend to be paralyzed with making decisions. And if that's the case for you, that's where I call therapy. That's where I call in therapy and say, maybe you got to work on that one. Because when you're able to make decisions, even though you don't know if they're the right ones or the wrong ones, and you're able to pivot from the wrong ones and keep moving forward with the right ones, when you're able to do that, guess what happens when you take action? You can get real world feedback. You see what works and you see what doesn't work. And you might discover that your initial course idea, if we get back to courses, might need some tweaking, some changing. Maybe the audience wanted something a little different. Lucky you. Lucky you that now you know that and you can take more action toward what they need and want and what you can deliver. So I challenge you to take an action today, something that's going to move you toward your goals. Maybe it's writing that email that you know you need to write to get it out to your list, or recording that social media video that you've been putting to the side, or finally making that decision you know you need to make. Or for those of you who have been following along for a while and you want to create a course, then maybe your decision is to finally get into Digital Course Academy. This is something that I've been leading up to for weeks. So if you follow the podcast, you're not surprised to know that Digital Course Academy opens this week. If you're listening to this episode on the day that it airs, then it doesn't open until September 19th. But if you're listening a few days after, then Digital Course Academy is likely open for enrollment. And so what I want you to do, whether it's the day this airs or the day it opens, I want you to go to amyporterfield.com/DCA. amyporterfield.com/DCA. If you're there a day early, you can get on the wait list and be the first to know when the doors open. Or if it's already open, you can learn all about it. Digital Course Academy is my signature program. It's the course I offer only once a year. It literally will help you come up with your course idea, create your course from scratch, everything you need to know, and then how to launch and market that course so that you can get it out into the world and it will be a success. Everything I know about digital course creation and launching is in Digital Course Academy. So if you want to check it out, amyporterfield.com/DCA. I wanted to take this moment to tell you about Digital Course Academy since it's opening this week. But more importantly, I wanted to talk to you about the cost of overwhelm and that the fact that overwhelm is a choice. I know when I say that, I want to cringe because I don't even like to hear that overwhelm is a choice. But what I've learned over the years is it absolutely is. And I want to remind you, the way I get myself out of overwhelm is ask myself, what is this costing me? What is this costing me? And then I choose an action to get going. Action creates clarity. So if your action is to join me in DCA, wonderful. But if it's something else, I'm just going to encourage you, get into action because you absolutely deserve this success and the results that you're looking for. But it's going to be on you, my friend. You got to get into action. Thanks so much for joining me. And I cannot wait to see you again on Thursday for more entrepreneurial goodness. Bye for now.